I gotta do it before I start sweating.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RV. See, I'm all messed up.
We got this.
Try one more time. First show, so forgive us. Welcome back. RVAsec 2022 in Richmond. My next guest, what's your name?
I'm Dominique Nazario.
With what company?
Infolock.
Infolock. Now, I like the sound of that. You're going to tell me some things probably that are not what the industry thinks. Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that way too. I look around, and nothing against any security companies because they're all brilliant people. I think we need a new approach. Let's talk about that. Why do you say organizations are doing information security wrong? What do you mean by that? This is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of times organizations are throwing tools at problems instead of really understanding what their data is, where it's at, who should be using it.
Right.
They are just buying tools and they end up with tool sprawl. They're also not treating data protection as a team sport. Oftentimes the security for the data falls on the IT and security teams when really everyone should be taking ownership for it.
That's exactly right. I've been saying that since I had my first computer, I'm not exaggerating, in 1984. You probably weren't born yet. They were 2 floppy drives. Hard drives were not invented.
Yeah.
And then a hard drive came out and it cost $1,500 and it was 25 megabytes. So I've seen this progression.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting, I come from physical security, right? And I taught myself cyber. They're the same. You put a guard at the desk, he lets the guy in anyway. You write a code, it lets the bad guy in anyway. It's kind of the same thing.
You're absolutely right.
And I think it's because the cyber people took cues from physical security because, it's all brand new. They're trying to build it. And we kind of got to this point where we're using a fortification model, and that's not what we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that you're absolutely right. And I've worked in other instances where we've done pen testing, and organizations will do not only physical, but also the cyber piece of it. So
if everybody's involved, then you have it takes a village. I don't like to say that often, but it does apply a lot of times.
Yeah.
It does apply this time. Now, what would you say are the 3 most critical types of data for most organizations?
Yeah, so I think compliance is a no-brainer.
Right.
Your PCI, HIPAA, even CMMC for your government contractors, which I'm sure there's a large population of those folks here today.
Right.
And then you've also got your contractual. So contractual, you're looking at any of your end-user agreements. Oftentimes with merger and acquisition, you'll see agreements when it comes to separation of data. You're also looking at your business-to-business agreements as well. So one instance of that would be, a law firm has to protect sensitive data when it goes through email per a specific large bank. I've seen that before. And then the third piece is the piece that is really hard to quantify, and that's your business sensitive data. So that's not stuff that you're required to protect, but it is stuff that could have a negative impact on the reputation of your organization. So, information about problems you're having with executives, maybe information about litigation that's happening, or maybe your earnings information gets out a little bit early because people are mishandling information.
All right, bring your mic up a little more for me. All right, now, I've always wondered, you mentioned 3 things that are critical, and they are. Isn't everything critical? And is it just too big a lift to protect everything?
Not necessarily. So, and that kind of goes into the next question, I'm sure, or the next part that I wanted to talk about, which is, you have to take a programmatic approach to this.
Right.
And it requires cooperation from the entire organization. You can't forget any part of your organization. And you really have to make sure that it starts with governance and having a charter, having people represented from all of the different business units, really understanding what everybody needs to be able to do their jobs. And so we have a framework that we use. We call it our data ramp. It's a data risk management framework. We start with governance, and then we move into visibility, where we actually take all those tools that you bought.
Right, that 125 it used to be.
And we also look at maybe other tools that you need to enhance your environment to be able to give you the visibility into what your end users are doing. And then we move into that protection phase where you can actually create controls, you can educate your end users, you can create metrics and milestones that help you to continue to follow through on a cycle that helps you to ultimately improve your data protection.
So I'm a retired police officer and I love governance. As you can imagine, I like rules, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best place to start because, the government's, especially regulations, if you have to comply, really take care of a lot of the issues.
Absolutely.
And people certainly like to do it. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm at Disney. I'm in charge of security at the studio. And I wanted to find a property, what was going on in the property. I look it up. Nobody knew. Real estate didn't know about that property. I do my own search. I find that Disney owns 1,500 properties worldwide. Guess what? Nobody in the company knew that. Because each division, to your point, had their data set.
Yeah.
Oh, I only take care of the parks. I only take care of the studio. And when I put this together and brought it up to the boss, they say, well, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Here's the list right here. They were not protecting some of those properties. They didn't know they owned them.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think of physical property, let's make those physical properties data, because it is data, right? Then that was a big miss on their part.
Absolutely.
So a global organization has a lot of places like that, but then, a smaller, medium-sized business also has critical data.
Absolutely.
Are you helping to protect the medium-sized business? Because the big boys always get all they want, right?
Yeah, so that's funny you say that because oftentimes those medium-sized businesses do business with much larger organizations, and they can be the conduit for some of those data security issues.
We had a contractor at Fox that got breached and got up into Fox's network through that interface. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's where it really is so important from the governance level to have executive buy-in across the board, to really make it a cooperative and relationship-built structure within your organization, and make sure that everybody's really speaking the same language when it comes to data protection.
Well, that's the problem, though, because the C-suite doesn't understand what a cookie is. Unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
So you got to translate, and that's another conversation, though.
Yeah.
All right, this may be a challenge, give me the single most important thing an organization can do right now to kind of start protecting their data and focusing on this.
Yeah, taking a programmatic approach. Don't start with the tools. Start with really understanding what your data is. The Infolock data ramp structure that we use is not an easy button. We can certainly make it easier and more effective, but it's so important to really start by understanding the why. And once you do that, you'll be in a position to be able to make really good decisions around your data, and you'll be in a much more proactive position when things do happen, so you can educate your employees and really make sure that you're protecting your stakeholders.
I've never heard anybody say don't start with their tools. That's a different approach.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to go to the tools. And in fact, there's tools that manage your tools.
Yeah.
Companies that say, I'm going to take all those tools and manage it for you. You go, well, it's kind of a circle here. Well, it's fantastic. Dominique, very nice to meet you.
Nice to
Good
meet
luck
you,
to
too.
you. Back in here, RVAsec 2022 in Richmond. Oh, give us your website one more time.
Infolock.com.
Infolock.com. Make sure you give Dominique a buzz. All right. Thanks again. Back in a minute. All right. Fantastic.
You good?
You did good. And now you're not 6 feet tall anymore.
Perfect. Are we done?
We're done.